Hello people, I welcome you once again to another episode of the NSMQ Review Show. On this episode, we'll be looking at the Regional Qualifiers and the Championship, which is being sponsored by Absa Bank for the Central Region. My name is Ato Kwamena Afokle, and I have some guests, some joining me via Zoom and one in the studio to help me do other discussions. So I have with me here Mr. Samuel Ajo, who is the Associate Client Service Director at Primetime Limited. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Fifi Hope, who is the Assistant Headmaster of Infante Prim School. Welcome, Mr. Hope.
Thank you very much.
Right, so let's delve right into the discussions. As usual, just give me your thoughts on the Central Regional competition, the qualifiers. How did you see it? How was the competition like?
Thank you once again. As usual, Central Region, as we all know, and for which people have always mentioned that it's the citadel of education when it comes to NSMQ for that matter. I mean, you have all the big schools in there, the Augustine College, the Holy Child, the Wesley Girls, and all those schools. So naturally, anytime we have NSMQ, you should expect or would expect that it's going to be very exciting, it's going to be very tense or have tense moments, and then wonderful or great performance from the schools. And so, I mean, not deviating from previous years, it was the same for 2021, where we had schools really exhibiting exciting performances, and for which we're not surprised, because that's the Central Region for you. So overall, it was great with the Central Region, as has always been the case.
So it was great in the Central Region. Mr. Fifi, your general thoughts on the competition as a whole. How did you see the schools, all the schools which competed, how do you see their performances?
Well, every school that won did well. There were I think 2 or so contests where it was quite close to consider. If my memory serves me right, between Agri and in Sabah, the initial stage we were expecting that was going to be a close contest. Amas and the Sikuma as well. They started well, eventually Porting and Agri won. Generally, it was okay.
Right. So, some contest 1 of the first day in the Central Region, Augustine State College winning by 49 points. I mean, looking at who they were paired with, it looked like they were going to be the winners. Or did you not think so?
All right. So, Augustine State College, of course, from what we've observed from those schools for the past 2 years, 2019 and 2018 and 2019, or 2019-2020. Naturally, we believed, or everyone believed, that Augustine State College were going to win. But then, of course, some years back, Academy of Christ the King were kind of coming up strongly, and for which they made it to the National Championship. But then, judging from what we saw in terms of the parents, we knew that if Augustine State College were going to follow the trend as in the performance they put out the past years, then they were going to win. And indeed, I mean, right from the onset, they really established their dominance on the competition, on the contest, for which the other schools were struggling to catch up with them. So for having witnessed their performance, as I mentioned during the Greater Accra Championship, I saw in them another school also causing a tsunami at the National Championship, just like I mentioned what they're going to doing with what they did at the Greater Accra Regional Qualifiers. So since State College, I wasn't that surprised that they won the contest, because they are establishing a certain mark for themselves in the National Science and Maths quiz.
So stay with me. Contest 2, University Practice SHS winning by 67 points. We have Infantiman Girls SHS coming in with 19 points, and looking at the pedigree that Infantiman Girls SHS have ascertained for themselves when it comes to the NSMQ, it looks like it was a very poor showing for them.
Infantiman Girls have been quite disappointing over the years. They haven't been able to make that strong hold on the program as they have been in the past years, and so it's been quite disappointing from them. Judging from the scores that we're seeing, realized that they were way behind what Unipra put up. And Unipra, I mean, when they joined, or when they came onto the program, they started from a certain level and rose up to and got to the stage of in the finals. I mean, then after that, realized that they started dropping. But then, from what we saw, it looks like they have sat back to do their homework, and therefore they've started building up again. And so they came out with that impressive score of 67 points. Somebody will say that, look, the schools that they met naturally were not able to, wouldn't be able to match up to them. So therefore, hitting 67 points is no news. But it is news one way or the other, because you have a school like Infantsman Girls who in 2013 went to the finals with Presec, Legon, and then St. Thomas Aquinas. And so I'm not surprised about Uniprab winning, but I'm just disappointed about Infantsman Girls not being able to make it out of the qualifiers to the national championship.
Fifi, contest 3, we have Edinaman SHS winning by 38 points. Second place, Eguafo Brame SHS 34 points. This looked like it was a tightly contested contest.
Right. Earlier in my intro, I mentioned 2 contests that were very close to call, and I think I had Agri in Saban, and then the Potson and the Sikuma contest. In fact, the second one that was close to call was the Naman and the Guafu contest. These are 2 schools that are very close in terms of where they are located, and there's this rivalry that has started. One has knocked one out earlier on, and they were expecting a revenge. So it was quite an exciting contest to watch. You could see that there was just a 4-point gap between Eguafo and Edinaman. So it was an exciting one. Last year, there was a third school around that area in Futu, and somebody cried very, very well after losing out in that contest. So that was the second one that was also close to call, as I said earlier on.
Right, so let me add to what Fifi just mentioned with regards to this particular contest. As I said, there's that rivalry between Edinaman and the Guafu, especially last year when they met in that contest, and then Edinaman and then Efutu is just were at par, but then the Guafu were about 2 or 3 points behind them, and then during the last riddle, Efutu, Eguafo, he got there on the first clue, hitting 5 points, which they beat. And that's why that brought about the tears and all those things. And to the extent that even the Naman teachers could not believe the guys. So even after the contest, they came to the quiz mistress to see whether indeed he got it right, and then he got it right on the first clue. And indeed, when we checked, he got the answer was there. He got it perfectly. So when they balloted and they had to meet again this year, right from the word, we realized that there was going to be a very tense and exciting contest. And the contest was characterized by a lot of protests because they were fighting neck to neck to ensure that they would beat each other. And so, well, they did all that they could, but Edinaman, this time were able to sail through.
All right, so contest 4. Fifi, contest 4, Infantsman School, and you have a personal stake in this. Infantsman School winning by 66 points. You look at the other schools in the category, and all of them are below the 20 points mark. Did you think it was going to be such a walkover?
Yeah, I expected it. I knew that they could not really push Infantsman that much. So I wasn't surprised when right from round 1 it was an easy going contest for Infantsman. I don't think that is where we should be anyway. So it's time we lifted ourselves out of the regionals and its associated banters.
Yes. I can understand where Fifi says that it's our time, because at a point in time he was off the scene when it has to do with Infantsman School. He was with Jukwa, and then when he went to Jukwa that year, Jukwa came onto the program and they performed marvelously well. And so for me, at that point, I declared, look, there is something in the name. And anytime we have to do this program, and I see there's something in it, because he made a strong impact on the school and for which they excelled, and by which time we realized Infantsman were also not pulling up, and therefore they always find themselves on the regional qualifiers. Then he came back to Infantsman School and was changed. I mean, by at the end of the first round, they were leading by 40 points. First round, 40 points. So it tells you the man behind the scenes. That's why I keep saying that there's something in the name.
Right. So let's quickly move to the second day. Contest 1, Agri Memorial Zion SHS, 40 points in that particular contest. They look like they went head to head with Insaba Presby SHS in this particular encounter.
It was a very, just like Fifi mentioned during his intro, it was a scary moment for Agri Memorial School, because at the point in time, we all felt Insaba were going to pull a surprise. They fought neck to neck with them. I mean, they gave them a run for their money, such that Agri Memorial Zion SHS felt that look, they might lose the contest, but they were fortunate that in the last round they were able to pick the result. Of course, I keep saying the schools who have been part of the program over the years, especially when you are able to make it to the national championship, have that experience, especially when it comes to the riddles. And so it was at that point that Sabah weren't able to come up strongly, and for which Agri Memorial won. I mean, at the last round. But it was a quite exciting contest, a very tense moment, and Agri Memorial really felt it. They felt the heat, seriously.
A very tense contest. Yes. Contest 1. The contest 2, Swedru SHS, 54 points. I really don't think this was a tense affair at all.
No, it wasn't a tense. I mean, judging from the schools that Swedru met, you realize that it was a straight walkover for them. I mean, you can see, as I was mentioning earlier, you can see Jukwa, after Fifi left the scene, where they couldn't make it to the top as they did for the previous year. So it was a straight walkover for Swedru SHS.
All right, so Fifi, I'd like you to come here for me. TI Amas, 30 points in contest 3, followed by Breman Esikuma SHS with 24 points. Even in third place, you see 21 points. So it looked like in this particular group, the winner had to actually put in a lot of effort.
Yes, Potting is or has been good over the years. The same thing can be said about Bremene Sikuma. As for Commander, we have not known them to be that good, but they tried pulling something up this time, and unfortunately, Potting did not allow them. I don't know the problem with Sikuma, but I think they've come strongly in some of the contests we've had in Accra before. But these days they have struggled. Right from round 1, it appeared to be close, but then eventually Cotton took a good lead, and that ended it. For the fourth contest with Winneba, for me it was a done deal for Winneba. I was sitting with the headmistress who was quite nervous at the earlier stages, and she kept hoping that they could win. Initially, he said she wanted to leave before the contest would start, that he was in just to say. I said, no, don't go. When you leave, your students would feel that you don't trust them. So sit and then let's enjoy the contest until the third round that she realized that it was not going to be possible for anybody to beat Winneba. Then she calmed down. So it was, for me, it wasn't a close one at all. Winneba had a straight win. Asim Manso was known to be good until about 2 years ago when things took a dip. I wasn't expecting them to get 14 as they did in that particular contest. I was hoping that they would have been second with some, maybe just 10 behind Winneba. Unfortunately, that is how it ended. So Winneba had a very easy battle to go through.
All right, so your thoughts as well on contest 4. Did you think that Asen Manso could have at least maybe thrown the gauntlet to Winneba SHS?
No, I mean, just like Fifi said, Asen Manso, some years back, they were performing, but you can never tell what's happening. And so when the parents came out, I realized that this was something that was going to be a done deal for Winneba SHS.
Done deal for Winneba SHS. So if you are still tuned in, this is the NSMQ review show. We have been talking about the regional qualifiers. We'll be going to talk about the Regional Championship, which is being sponsored by Absa Bank. For more information on the National Science and Maths Quiz, stay glued to our social media pages. Our handle is at NSMQ Ghana on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So let me come back to you, Fifi. The Regional Championship, they won the first contest, Augustine College winning by 42 points. Holy Child School also in there with 24 points, and they came in third. Was this a surprising result for you?
Surprising for Holy Child and Naman's position. It was a surprise for me. Addisco winning wasn't a surprise at all. I mean, Addisco is a good school. You may think that they are struggling, but I know what Addisco can do on any day. So you have to be careful if you come into contact with Addisco College. But the first contest, I think, went according to the prediction as far as the winner is concerned. Holy Child, on the face of it, is better than Naman, and therefore one would have expected that they would have come up to give Addisco a scare. Last year they did well at the championship, but this year they struggled a bit. I agree, right from the initial stages, you could see that it was going to be tough for them. So for this other winning, I think it was just a matter of time.
All right, so contest to Infantipim School, 52 points. St. Augustine's College coming in close with 49 points. I mean, this is a very old rivalry between schools whose geographical locations are very similar.
Geographical locations very similar by way of the Cape Coast township, but Augustine is very close to the seashore. They are closer to the seashore. So I'll leave that one there. It was a hot one. It was a hot one. You know what Augustine did to Infantipim in 2019, yes. And we have always looked for an opportunity to also pay them back. This is just a little bit of it. We want it to happen in Accra, and then we'll be satisfied within our bones that we have indeed paid a very sound tribute to our faithful eight. If Augustine led at a point, and it took a lot of effort to really overtake them at the last bit. I think even as late as around 3 true or false, Augustine was still being a threat. And you could see from the margin of 3 that it's just 1 true or false question or 1 riddle that needed to do the separation. I'm happy that eventually we won, and we had to kick Augustine out of that final. We are looking for an opportunity to kick them out of another competition altogether.
Well, so Samuel, I want your views also on contest 2. You look down there and you see Wesley Girls High School. There were 31 points, as well as Redrose SHS with 31 points, tying for bottom place. Was it the performance you expected of Wesley Girls Senior High School?
No, actually, being the defending champions, I mean, because they won the championship, the Absa Bank Regional Championship last year as well. Yeah. So I was expecting a much better performance from them. Even though they were meeting the fans, I was still expecting much better performance from them. But speaking to this particular contest, when we did the balloting and realized that fans, once again we're going to miss St. Augustine's, you can imagine the uproar in the auditorium, because for the umpteenth time these two schools are going to meet again, and it looks like anytime they meet, Augustine side beat Infantipim. Anytime Augustine beat Infantipim. I remember very well last year when we did the balloting for the championship, and they were to meet. Augustine was to meet Infantipim. One of the old boys was like, but why? Why is that every time they always have to ballot and then meet Augustine? Why? What's the problem? What's happening? Because he knew they're going to perhaps be beaten again, and for that matter, he wasn't comfortable with it. And they were beaten last year, but come this year they had to meet again, and it was quite strange. But then, history has to be told, and then when Infantipim eventually were able to beat Augustine's, and as Fifi rightly said, Augustine's were leading at a point in time, and I think during the last round or so, where they had to pick out 2 riddles. Then Wesley Girls and Straight also picked the other 2 riddles. There were 4 riddles, and then they picked those 2 other riddles, for which it gave them the opportunity of winning. So it was a sweet victory for Infantipim.
So sweet revenge there from Infantipim. So some more contest 3, University Practice SHS are winning with 30 points here. I think they justified their inclusion in this particular round.
Indeed, they did. Once again, judging from their performance qualifiers, the highest score that they picked, because I think they were the school that picked that, they made the highest score at during the qualifiers, followed by NSMQ. That's they made 67 points. So we all felt that look, they have a strong opportunity of winning, even though from judging from APAM, SHS, and Buamponsin, I didn't really see. I wasn't so expecting so much from TMR Sporting, but I felt that perhaps APAM and the Buamponsin, judging from the previous year's performances, were going to trouble University Price. And indeed, it was a very close one between Unipra and APAM. I think went to the last round. It was at the last round that Unipra were able to sail through. That's why we have a very close scores like that. So that was what happened at that contest.
IFFSO contest 4. Asin State College 43 points. Ghana National College close second with 39, and then Winneba SHS at the bottom with 35 points. Contest 4. What were your expectations? What were your thoughts?
Thank you. At the initial stage, I was thinking that Ghana National could win that particular contest, but as you can see from the scores, it's an evenly matched arrangement. It's just one or two questions that separated first and second and third. So you shouldn't be surprised that it ended up that way. Asin State has a good team. In the first part of the competition, they made a very good claim, and the Winneba also did quite well. So going into this one, and you could see from the other contest that this is the contest where the scores were closely related in terms of gap, right from the first to the third. Unlike the advancement one, where the first, second up there, third and fourth down there, this saddle high up there, and then even APAM and the university practice, you could see that the first two were close. But for this one, a difference of 4 between first and second, a difference of 4 between second and third. So these are all evenly matched schools. So you will not be able to say that Asin State will dominate this contest on another day. It's just one speed run question that you miss or score, and then you take the thing out of your partner's grips. So it is an evenly matched arrangement. It could turn any other day.
All right, so an evenly matched contest there in contest 4. So at the finals, we saw Infantipim School win with 53 points. Second place, Augustine College 35, and then we have University Practice and Asin State College coming in there. 53 points in a final. Impressive.
Yes, very, very impressive. To the extent that Addis-Adel couldn't lift up their game, it gave Infantipim a field day. The problem or the competition or the heat was rather in the semi-final contest where Infantipim, Ogasco, and Wesley girls had to be in one particular group. That is where there was a lot more of heat. But going into this one, I knew Unipra wasn't going to pose a problem. Asin State couldn't either. Restrict them too well, so you have to be careful. But this particular occasion, they didn't pull their weight too well. 53-35, the gap was wide beyond my expectation.
Okay, so someone looking at this final contest, Fifi thinks that it wasn't really a contest. He believes that that contest between Infantipim, Augustine, Wesley girls was more or less like the final before the real final itself. Do you echo the same thoughts?
Yes, indeed. You realize that because of the Infantipim and Augustine's factor in that during the summer, that's where people really believe that was the real deal. Because that rivalry it was quite strong enough, and we believe that it was going to be a tough fight between the two schools because Infantipim wants to upstage Augustine after beating it for all as well. And so it was quite interesting at that point. But so for me, with Infantipim School winning that contest and or winning the semi-final contest, moving on to the finals, I realized that there was no turning back. I mean, I realized there was no turning back for them, irrespective of the fact that Addis-Adel could pose a challenge to them Unipra and then Ascent State, yes, they will do their best, but I know they wouldn't be able to come up strongly, unlike what I was expecting from this other college. But for me, having qualified to the finals, I knew there was no turning back from Fancy School, and so I was not surprised that they won the Absa Bank Regional Championship. So kudos to them, and it was a well-deserved victory, and they really enjoyed it to the max. Right.
But before you go, looking at 2019, where St. Augustine's were able to win their regional championship, and then they came to the national championship, and then they were able to lift the trophy. Do you think this year could be the turn of Infant School?
Well, 2019, yes, Augustine's won the regional Absa Bank Regional Championship, and then went on to win the national championship. 2020, Presec won the Absa Bank Regional Championship, and then went on to win the national championship. Now, Infant Spim has won the regional championship. Yes, you're mentioning Infant Spim because of the region where we know the champions. Normally, we usually get the champions coming from that region. So, I see Infant Spim School, judging from their performances, I see them also as a potential winner of the national championship. So, we'll live to see whether they're able to play the same record that Augustine's and then Presec did play years back.
All right, so Fifi, your school winning the regional championship, do you think that they can take it a step further to win the national championship this year?
Yes, I expect so. I expect that we will be able to take it right through to the finals in Accra and then lift the trophy. That is my expectation, and we are working very, very hard to get that through.
All right, kudos and all the best to your team. Thank you for joining the NSMQ Review Show.
Thank you very much. It's been nice having you.
Thank you. Thank you, Samuel, too, for joining the NSMQ Review Show.
Thank you.
So if you're still with us, this is the NSMQ Review Show. Also, we have come to the end of today's episode, and we reviewed the Central Regional Championships and Qualifiers, the championship being sponsored by Absa Bank. So in our next episode, we'll be looking at the qualifiers and the championship for the Bono Ahafo Zone. My name is Ato Kwamina Afo Cleland. For more updates on the National Science and Maths quiz, do stay tuned to all our social media platforms at NSMQ Ghana on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you later. Bye.